Lagos, Nigeria, 1995. A man walks into the office of a Brazilian bank director and says, "I have an opportunity for you. The Nigerian government is selling an airport. Brand new, state-of-the-art. They need a serious buyer, someone discreet." The Brazilian banker is interested. "How much?" he asks. $242 million. It's expensive, but it's an airport, a legitimate infrastructure project. The investment could be worth billions. So the banker agrees. He wires the money, $242 million, to build an airport in Nigeria. There's just one problem. The airport doesn't exist. Never did, never would. The man who sold it? A Nigerian con artist named Emmanuel Nwude. And for 3 years, from 1995 to 1998, he convinced one of Brazil's largest banks to keep sending money for an airport that was never going to be built. This is the story of the third largest bank fraud in history, and it started with a phone call. To understand how Emmanuel Nwude sold a fake airport for $242 million, you need to understand 3 things. 1. Who Emmanuel Nwude was. 2. How he convinced a bank director to wire millions without visiting the site. And 3. Why it took 3 years for anyone to notice. Let's start at the beginning. Emmanuel Nwude was born in Nigeria in the 1960s. Not much is known about his early life. He wasn't famous, he wasn't wealthy. He was just smart and ambitious. By the 1990s, Nigeria had a reputation, a bad one. The country was known for 419 scams, named after the section of Nigerian criminal code that addressed fraud. These were the emails you've probably seen. "I am a Nigerian prince. I need help transferring money. Please send your bank details." Most people ignored them, but some people didn't. And Emmanuel Nwude realized something. If people would fall for a fake prince in an email, what would they fall for in person, with documents, with official-looking contracts? He decided to find out. By 1995, Nwude had positioned himself as a government liaison, someone who could connect foreign investors with Nigerian infrastructure projects. He had business cards, official-looking stationery, connections, or at least people who looked like they had connections. And he had a target. Nelson Sakaguchi, director of Banco Noroeste, one of Brazil's largest banks. Nelson Sakaguchi wasn't stupid. He was the director of a major Brazilian bank. He'd been in finance for decades. He knew how to evaluate investments. But he had a problem. Banco Noroeste was struggling. Brazil's economy in the 1990s was unstable. Banks were looking for big, safe investments, infrastructure projects, government-backed deals. And that's exactly what Emmanuel Nwude offered him. In 1995, Nwude contacted Sakaguchi. The pitch was simple. The Nigerian government is building a new airport in Abuja, the capital city. It's a massive project, billions in future revenue, but the government needs private financing, discreet financing. If you invest now, you'll own a stake in the airport. The returns will be enormous. Sakaguchi was interested. Nwude sent him documents, contracts, blueprints, letters supposedly from the Nigerian government confirming the project. Everything looked legitimate. But here's the genius part. Nwude didn't ask for all the money up front. He asked for installments. A few million here, a few million there, over time. Construction costs, he said, permits, equipment, labor. And Sakaguchi paid. 2 million, 5 million, 10 million. Each time Nwude sent back official-looking receipts, progress reports, photos of construction sites. Sakaguchi believed it. Why wouldn't he? The documents looked real. The project made sense. And besides, he'd already invested millions. If he stopped now, he'd lose everything. So he kept paying. Here's how Nwude pulled it off. First, he created fake government officials. Nwude didn't work alone. He had accomplices, people who pretended to be Nigerian government ministers, airport authority directors, finance officials. They had titles, business cards, offices, or at least office addresses. When Sakaguchi called to verify the project, these officials confirmed everything. Yes, the airport project is real. Yes, we're working with Mr. Nwude. Yes, your investment is secure. Second, he used real locations. Nwude would send Sakaguchi photos of construction sites, except they weren't the airport. They were photos of other projects in Nigeria: roads, buildings, random construction zones. Sakaguchi had never been to Nigeria. He had no idea what Abuja looked like. The photos looked official. That was enough. Third, he kept asking for more money. Every few months, Nwude would say, "We need another 10 million. Unexpected costs, delays, permits." And Sakaguchi would pay. Because at this point, Sakaguchi had a bigger problem. He'd been hiding the investment from Banco Noroeste's board of directors. He'd been wiring the bank's money, customer deposits, reserve funds without approval. If he admitted the airport was fake, he'd go to prison for embezzlement. So he kept paying, hoping the airport would eventually be real, hoping he could recover the money. By 1998, Sakaguchi had wired $242 million, and Emmanuel Nwude, he was living like a king. $242 million. Nwude didn't invest it, he spent it. Mansions in Nigeria, luxury cars, private jets. He bought political connections, bribed officials, funded businesses, legitimate and illegitimate. He lived openly, lavishly, because in Nigeria in the 1990s, if you had money, no one asked where it came from. And Sakaguchi, he was spiraling. By 1998, Banco Noroeste was running out of money. Auditors started asking questions. Where did $242 million go? Sakaguchi couldn't hide it anymore. In August 1998, the truth came out. Banco Noroeste had been funding a fake airport for 3 years. The bank collapsed, customers lost their savings, Sakaguchi was arrested. And Emmanuel Nwude? He disappeared.
After the scandal broke, Brazilian authorities contacted Interpol. They wanted Nwude and his accomplices, but finding him wasn't easy. Nigeria in the 1990s was chaotic. Corruption was rampant. Law enforcement was flexible. Nwude had money, and money bought protection. But in 2004, 6 years after the scam, Nigerian authorities finally arrested him. Why? Because the scam was so big it became an international embarrassment. The Nigerian government wanted to show the world they were cracking down on fraud. Nwude became the example. In 2005, he was convicted of fraud, sentenced to 25 years in prison. He was also ordered to pay back the $242 million. He never did. Most of the money was gone, spent, hidden, laundered. Nelson Sakaguchi, the Brazilian banker, was also convicted. He served time in Brazil for embezzlement. And Banco Noroeste? It never recovered. The bank was liquidated in 2001. So who lost? Brazilian customers, people who had their savings in Banco Noroeste. When the bank collapsed, they lost everything. Some got partial refunds through government bailouts, but most people, they were just broke. And the Brazilian economy? It took a hit. Confidence in banks dropped, regulations tightened. But here's the crazy part. This wasn't even the biggest scam in history. Bernie Madoff stole $65 billion. The OneCoin scam took $4 billion. FTX lost $32 billion. But the Nwude scam, $242 million? At the time, 1998, it was the third largest bank fraud ever recorded. And it was done with fake documents, fake officials, and a phone line. So how did this happen? How did a Brazilian bank wire $242 million for an airport that didn't exist? 3 reasons. 1. Greed. Sakaguchi wanted the big win, the infrastructure deal that would make him a hero. He stopped asking questions because he wanted it to be real. 2. Sunk cost fallacy. Once he'd invested $10 million, he couldn't admit it was fake, so he kept paying, hoping to recover the loss. By the time he'd paid $50 million, he was trapped. 3. No verification. Sakaguchi never visited Nigeria, never inspected the site, never independently verified the documents. He trusted phone calls. He trusted paperwork. He trusted people he'd never met. And here's the thing, this scam still works today. Not airports, but fake investments, fake crypto projects, fake real estate deals. The same psychology, the same greed, the same sunk cost fallacy. People want to believe, and scammers know that. Emmanuel Nwude didn't just sell a fake airport, he sold hope. He sold the idea of easy money. He sold the belief that you were smart enough to spot the opportunity no one else saw. And that's a scam that never gets old. Emmanuel Nwude is still in prison, serving his 25-year sentence. Nelson Sakaguchi served his time and was released. The $242 million never recovered. And the airport in Abuja? It was eventually built by the Nigerian government using actual funding. But for 3 years, 1995 to 1998, the airport only existed in Emmanuel Nwude's imagination. And that was enough. If this story blew your mind, you need to see the next one. A man walked into a luxury hotel in Paris, convinced 5 businessmen the French government was selling the Eiffel Tower, and walked away with a fortune. Then he did it again. Subscribe so you don't miss it. See you in the next one.